As the wrought iron gates of the Bank of England's hulking Threadneedle Street headquarters creak open this week, the members of the Monetary Policy Committee face a conundrum wrapped in an enigma. On one side, the forces of disinflation are massing, unfurling their banners of economic retrenchment. On the other, the ghosts of overheated prices rattle their chains, warning of the dangers of premature capitulation. It's a clash of phantoms, the specter of domestic demand implosion versus the haunting threat of an insidious inflationary psychology taking root. And sitting squarely at the crossroads is Andrew Bailey and his band of rate-setters, their fingers lingering over the levers of monetary control. For the venerable old lady of Threadneedle Street, this may be one meeting where she is silently grateful the decision has already been half made for her. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's snap election call 3 weeks ago effectively kneecapped any prospect of a rate cut, lest it be seen as politically charged meddling. The insulated halls of Britannia's central bank have gone as silent as a crypt, but the numbers continue to howl from the darkness. Inflation data laid bare the divide just last Wednesday. On one hand, the UK's headline inflation rate slowed to a relatively tame 2% in May, a piping hot number by the benchmarks of the pre-pandemic era, but outright glacial compared to the pyres it flirted with last autumn. A win for teen disinflation, it would seem. Except the very same report contained an ominous counterpoint: services inflation remains stubbornly higher, nearly tripling the 2% target at 5.7%, a disturbing shorthand for the underlying wage pressures festering beneath the economic surface. Was it merely a remnant phantom? Or murky foreshadowing of pricing paradigms to come? The MPC's decision at noon will be pored over for any semblance of a decisive verdict. But in the absence of policymaker guidance during this electioneering interregnum, analysts are left decoding tea leaves. The smart money, that diabolical hive mind of investors, economists, and bookies, seems convinced Bailey will counsel a holding pattern at 5.25%, the lofty plateau reached after over a year of cumulative rate increases. The vote math itself may offer clues. Two relatively hawkish voices, Dave Ramsden and Swati Dhingra, dissented for a 25 basis point cut at the previous meeting. If their calls for a cessation of hostilities against inflation go unheeded, it could portend a hawkish consensus solidifying around Bailey's policy core. Then again, the committee's ranks are set for an ideological shift. Ben Broadbent, whose term as deputy governor expires after this meeting, is expected to be succeeded by the potentially more hawkish Claire Lombardelli. Her entry could tip the scales on the Security Council. Ultimately, the path forward hinges on the MPC's interpretation of the great conflicting spirits. Do the demons of demand retrenchment necessitate an accelerating disarmament after over a year of monetary tightening? Or do the wraiths of sticky inflation still stalk the kingdom, requiring an iron fist and vigilance until the hordes have been routed? For Bailey and his contemplatives, one senses the decision is akin to the sword and the stone, grasped firmly, and vanquish remaining inflationary foes at considerable economic cost? Or draw back, risking a reprise of the same terrors already endured? In the clammy halls of Threadneedle, all eyes turn to August's revelatory forecasts, the next Glastonbury for deciphering the MPC's path. Until then, the old lady must sit in lonely contemplation, weighing the shadowy specters knocking upon her threshold, in hopes of glimpsing enlightenment through the encircling gloom.